So in the first episode of Bucktail Island, I feel like the winning team would still be the Floating Salmon. Now Jasmine likes Sean, so I was not going to vote him off. And I feel like Sammy would respect that. And I also think Scarlet and Max would respect. I think Scarlet herself would respect that because at this point she's not evil and she likes Jasmine, so she wants to be in good favors with her on the team. Amy would probably vote Sean just to spite Jasmine. Rodney, I don't know, he just votes probably Sean. Topher, probably Sean, but then Scarlet can get these four to vote for Sugar. So in the pig episode, Leonard still costing a loss, and I don't think Beardo would do much here except go slow motion. So I think if anything, the Confused Bears would do worse in this challenge with Beardo being on the team. And considering they lose anyways, there's no reason for them not to win. Now they realize Sky is the most athletic person here, so Scarlet thinks they need to get rid of Sky on the team. Episode 3 is the balloon episode, and Amy and Sammy are the reason that they lose in the original. So they're the reason they lost. Now, Sean likes Jasmine. Still, she's not going to vote her off. So he's going to think Rodney's a big threat. So they're going to vote. He's going to vote for Rodney. But Dave is also going to vote for Rodney. Leonard and Beardo probably just voted for Scarlet, and then Ella votes for Rodney. So I think Rodney's gone here. And episode 4 is the Knots challenge. So, truth or dares. The only new characters is Amy and Beardo and Leonard. To be honest, they would do. Beardo and Leonard would do very good. I think Amy would do better. I think Sammy would do actually a little bit better with Amy being present. Now, obviously, there's more like chaos on the team, but to be honest, in the tiebreaker, it would now be Topher versus Ella. And considering how bad Topher is at challenges, I imagine that Ella would still win. Now, Rodney's the reason they lose the challenge here, but I think the floating salmon still lose here. So they agree that Max or Scarlet is probably going here. Now they choose to get rid of Scarlet over Max because Scarlet is the biggest threat. It's not immune. Sean does like Jasmine, but Dave's friends with him and Ella would listen to Sean. So the other two obviously don't really have much say in that. They just get rid of Scarlet. Episode 5 is the Dueling Sticks episode. So Topher and Dave and neither get points. So obviously Sean isn't distracted at this point, so he's actually at the challenge. So it would be Jasmine versus Ella because Sean wouldn't want to fight his own. Wouldn't want to fight Jasmine. Then we have Amy and Leonard, and I think Sammy and Beardo, Sammy, and then Sean and Max. I think Max would use electric eel still, and I think in the end, without Amy and Sammy to argue on the team, the Floating Salmon win the challenge. And I feel like now Amy has kind of majority, and Max isn't really with Jasmine. So they make an alliance. I feel like they work together. So Topher's kind of the only person. Now, he's not really focused on the game at this point. So Amy and Topher vote for Sean. Jasmine and Sammy would vote for Leonard. So Max is the swing vote, and I think he'd rather get rid of Leonard over Sean. Because a wizard. And Max wouldn't want someone with superpowers in the game. So in episode 6, this is where we have Momo Monkey. So Dave originally stole the banana, but then Sugar ate the banana. So because of that, the Confused Bears now win the challenge. Now Ella sings doesn't get eliminated since she never sings in this timeline because the challenge already finished that much quicker. And out of these 4, who do they want to eliminate? So I think now they decide that getting rid of Amy is a good idea. Since obviously last challenge Sean nearly got eliminated by Amy. And the others, Max is pretty smart himself. So I feel like here they might actually go for Max because he's kind of the biggest threat. I mean, Sean likes Jasmine. Dave and Ella are friends with Sean, so they're also going to listen to him more than strategically in the game, so they get rid of Max. Episode 7 is This is the Pit. Now, to be honest, in this episode, everybody gets across, and nobody can get the right exit, so there's no elimination. Now, there is a team swap, but the problem is Sky and Max have just been eliminated. So I think to make things more interesting, it would be Sammy who swaps over, and I now think Ella swaps. Well, it's usually guy, girl. So I think Sean swaps over. But I'm gonna say Ella because Ella and Dave would have been pretty close. And then I think Sammy swaps over. Now, to be honest, Topher's still here to cause caving on this team. With Ella on the floating salmon, I just think they do better in the challenge. And the Confused Bears win. Now, I think Dave's not as upset as Ella being swapped because he doesn't really. Sky's already been eliminated, so if anything, I think Dave's actually doing better in the season without Sky. So they end up voting for Topher was the reason they lost. But I think they'd agree that Topher goes here because Sean wouldn't want to put Jasmine in danger. And I think they all agree. Sammy would vote for Amy, but the other three would vote for Topher. So now we're at the merge. And this is the puke challenge. They have to eat puke. And the winner of the challenge is Dave. So Dave probably wouldn't. Dave isn't as high motivated to try and impress Sky, so he doesn't do that well. So I now think Sean wins the challenge here. So Jasmine wins immunity since Sean's doing the seeking, and he obviously, when he runs into the zombies, he's running away by himself. But he never has that realization that he likes Jasmine, so he runs off and hides for the whole episode when the zombies come out. So Jasmine gets immunity. Sean and Jasmine have the same. Dave doesn't vote for himself since Sky's not reject him. There's no reason for that to happen now. Amy, obviously, so Dave and Ella are a duo. And now everybody agrees that Amy has to go here since she's the biggest threat that's immune. And obviously they're going to try and get rid of her now. And everyone likes Beto more than Amy. Episode 10 is... So, to be honest, everyone would target Amy because Sean doesn't like Amy because he's now friends with Amy because they're on the same team. Dave probably wouldn't like her very much. Ella, from Ella being treated badly by Amy, and Beardo, regardless of what he does, he probably doesn't like her very much, but regardless, she's eliminated in this episode. Episode 10 is Scarlet Fever, so it's Sean and Jasmine, Sammy and Beardo, which leaves Dave and Ella. Now, in this episode, it would be different because the island still self-destructs, and the challenge is to stop the self-destruction on the island, but there's no Scarlet this time to take over the island. So how do we decide who leaves? Well, who would stop the challenge? And I think Sean would fight the robots to make up with Jasmine, and they win immunity. So I'm going to keep this as a double elimination. Now, I know in the original timeline it was only kept as a double because Max said he was the only villain left, and Chris was like, nah, I'm just booting him off. Which I think is totally unfair for Max as well, the fact he got booted off for just saying that he was a villain, which I think is wrong, but that's another conversation of the day. The point we're trying to get at is that's that, so we're going to decide who is going home. So Sean has Sammy, and Dave and Ella would obviously vote for Sammy. Now, Beardo is friends with Sammy, so I feel like these four vote for Dave. Now, Dave and Ella vote, I think, Beardo. Would vote for Sammy since Beardo is on their team. So I think these three vote for Dave, and the other three would vote for Sammy. So I think Sammy and Dave are both sent home as tiebreaker. Turns out Chris sends them both home. Episode 4 is a race to the top. So the race to the top, like the original, Sean and Jasmine 100% make it to the end of this challenge. So between Beardo and Ella, I do think Ella would do better than Beardo. So 4th place, Beardo. Pretty crazy that Beardo was like the first boot of the season. They came 4th place. Pretty good for him, actually. Not gonna lie. Episode 12. They have to make their own challenge. So here, I think it was Sean's challenge first, which was the jumping up the tree. Jasmine wins that one, Sean second, Ella third. The hurdles, Jasmine first, Sean second, Ella third. The talent show, I think Ella would actually win this challenge here. Sean second and Jasmine third. Now, I think it doesn't really matter between Jasmine and Sean because obviously they're trying to choose each other over Ella. So I think Jasmine and Sean are both in the finale. Now, to be honest, I think Sammy gets Jasmine gets Sammy and Sean gets Dave. So I think they each get winning endings, and it's more of a friendly rivalry. Obviously, they both want to split the prize money. Sean obviously doesn't want to at first, but then changes his mind. So even if he loses, he still splits the prize money with Jasmine. So I think in the end, Jasmine would probably be my kind of winner because she's my favorite character of Blocktail Island. But regardless, that's that. So this is the waiting order for Blocktail Island. And now we go into what if the teams. So basically, we go into the reboot season. But the first episode is obviously the blind obstacle course, and the Trout still win the challenge. There's no reason for this to happen. Now, the Frog's Death lose, and I feel like that Priya and Millie would kind of come to the same conclusion that Caleb has to go here. So I think everybody would kind of think that Caleb is the biggest threat on the team, because they wouldn't know, like, Bowie's very athletic. They wouldn't know, because a lot of them would have been blindfolded, but I do think just seeing Caleb, I think a lot of them would vote him off. So in episode 2, we have the episode where the cabbages. Now, these the reason that the team lost, and Axel still kicks Ripper off. So I feel like this still happens, and the Frogs to Death win the challenge. Now, Bowie, I think, is kind of this, and Julia are kind of the people who's in charge of this. They're kind of the ones who are the strategic at MK. And Bowie still has alliance with Emma, and I feel like Emma wants to get rid of Chase. But I feel like they go for Axel still. Axel kind of is still a big threat, so they go for Axel since they think she's a huge threat. Like in the original, I think the winning team would think Axel was good at leading a team today. She's been shown very tough in challenges. They might as well try to get rid of her at this point. So episode 3. So Damien's still in the tube in this episode. This is the episode where they have to race the obstacle course race, and Michelle's revealed that she's a fake. That she's actually terrible at challenges, which actually helps this other team. So the Trout win the challenge like in the original. And I don't think they go for Michelle here because she's a big threat. So I feel like here they go for the Hockey Bros and they go for Bowie, but they go for Bowie because he's really smart and strategic, and he's very athletic and the best on the team. So I feel like they go for Bowie here, to be honest. So episode 4 is Numbskull, the Numbskull episode, and obviously Scary Girl causes explosions and is still the reason the team lose. I think Michelle isn't very liked on her team. Obviously Julia is trying to make Michelle like not very liked. I think Wayne and Raj are more on the disappointed side of Michelle rather than being upset with her. And I think MK is just kind of chilling. So I think the Trout lose the challenge. And to be honest here, I think they'll vote off Scary Girl. For the same reasons as the other team, I think they just get rid of Scary Girl. Episode 5 is Jurassic Farts. So, to be honest, Damien doesn't want to quit after his quit campaign. So I feel like the other team wouldn't really want that, though. Like, Damien's pretty smart, but he's very scared of challenges. So I feel like Julia wouldn't really want that. So I feel like they kind of want to keep him around. So Ripper, Priya, or Millie probably are the people they want to get rid of because Chase and Z aren't really a threat. And I think they go for Priya because she's a very big threat. She's a physical threat in terms of challenges, and she's really good at the game and has very lots of knowledge in Total Drama. And most people wouldn't think Priya's a threat, but I think Julia would know, well, Priya is a person that has to go here. And we can't really keep her around, so she think Ripper's disgusting, but she would know Priya's a bigger threat over Ripper. So episode 6, this is where they have to slingshot the teammates. And obviously, I think the Trout do okay like they did in the original. I think the only difference is Ripper. I don't think he could really make a difference, to be honest. I think Raj obviously isn't with Bowie in this episode because Bowie's already eliminated. So I think the Trout would win. Now, to be honest, Julia reveals MK's been spying on confessionals. I think, to be honest, that there's just no way MK does not survive this elimination. So now we're at the merge, and really the only difference here, we've got a few differences in this merge cast because we don't have Priya, we don't have Bowie. That's kind of it, yeah. We don't have Priya and Bowie, and it's Ripper and Nichelle instead of Bowie and Priya. So in episode 7, so they have to do their pairs, don't they? So it's Emma and Chase, the Hockey Bros. I think it would be Damien and I think Ripper, because I think Ripper just scared Damien. Actually, no, Z. Ripper and Z. Damien and Millie, which leaves Nichelle and Julia. So the Hockey Bros still get injured in this challenge. So Millie wins immunity in the original, but probably Damien wouldn't give it to us. They probably both win it now. But Wayne and Rod still get injured in this episode, which means regardless of who actually wins the challenge here, they just get automatically eliminated for being injured, like in the original. Episode 8 is the vomit comment, and to be honest, it would be down to Julia and Ripper in the final round. I think Nichelle wouldn't do that well in this episode. Z got put off by Julia for talking about cow's milk, so that would still happen. And Millie didn't do that well here. Damien wouldn't do that well either. So I think Julia still wins the challenge here, to be honest. Now, everyone would target Ripper since he did the best outside of Julia in the challenge and he's not very liked on the team. And I think Emma and Chase would vote for him. Z would probably vote for him as well. Most people would want to get rid of Ripper. In episode 9, so this is the paddle race episode, and to be honest, in the episode, Julia would make an alliance with Chase and Emma, and Nichelle would work with Millie and Damien, and this episode still, Z would be in the middle of the alliance. Now, Z would obviously tell everyone that he voted for Chris so he could work with both alliances, and just like the original, he gets voted off. So obviously in this episode, they have to balance on the polls. Damien does very bad in Nichelle, and Millie does bad in the original. Julia still would fail, and Emma still wins because Chase wants pizza. So everybody votes for Chase since Emma and Chase are a couple, and they would think that Chase is more of a threat than Emma. So in episode 11 is this selfies challenge. Now Damien does pretty bad here, and Nichelle actually does pretty decent since she's a film star. So I think Nichelle would actually be very decent here. Since she's acted on a lot of things, I think she could definitely take a lot of pictures. Millie and Emma do alright as the original. The only difference is Emma obviously doesn't argue with Bowie about the alliance, and she obviously isn't a target. Now, Millie and Damien are friends, but they have to talk about who they want to get rid of, because Julia still has immunity. So they decided to target Nichelle since she's a bigger threat and is generally going to be winning a popularity contest if she gets to the final four. In episode 12, we have Julia against Damien and Millie versus Emma. Now, obviously, Damien and Millie are on the same team, so I'm actually going to do team challenges rather than because it was actually random in this episode. Now, Emma doesn't throw. Emma still throws since she makes a deal with Millie and Damien to obviously throw the challenge. So I think Millie and Julia without Bowie throw, there's no reason for Emma not to throw here. I think Julia and Emma win the challenge since I think they would gain immunity. So the two would vote for Millie, and Millie votes for Emma. So I think Damien has a decision to make whether or not to vote for Millie or would he vote for Emma. I think he would vote for Emma. So in a tiebreaker between Emma and Millie, I think Millie could beat Emma in just about any tiebreaker. So it's the finale, and basically Julia, Millie, and Damien are all in the finale in this timeline. So because there's no arguing with Bowie, Julia can't obviously manipulate Millie and Damien. Priya would help Millie. For Damien, I think it'd be Axel and Julia as MK. Now, to be honest, I think in the finals, Millie is still eliminated third, as I think between Damien and Julia. I actually think Damien wins the season, which I think would be more interesting if he won. Now, obviously, they have to drink the milk and go around the spinning ball, and whoever holds in the longest wins. And in this is actually would be Julia that wins the season. So this is the elimination order, and now we go on to season 2 of Total Drama, the reboot season. So to be honest, in this episode of the reboot season 2, although the finalists were different and it was Damien and Julia, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to say the teams remain the same to be respectful to what if the winning teams voted for who they wanted to. So in episode 1, I think it still plays out the same with the skunk butts losing the challenge, and the rat face would probably still vote for Scary Girl since everybody was creeped out by how nice she was being, and that everyone votes her off. So in episode 2 is Slip and Slide. Now, to be honest, Damien gets pushed down by Millie like in the original. And obviously, Caleb still has his alliance with, wouldn't have his alliance with Priya in this timeline since Priya wasn't a finalist. So instead, he wouldn't ask anyone. He'd actually go to Damien to make his alliance with Damien. So Damien was in the finale and did win last season. But now Priya is also with them and Millie. Now, the skunk butts still lose the challenge here. And to be honest, I think they go for Bowie for Julia because she won last season, and she's the biggest threat that's not immune because Damien's the runner-up. So they all vote for Julia. In episode 3, is the You Poor Sats challenge. MK still cheats with their team, but now it's just Bowie and no Julia. So the rat face win the challenge, like in the original. And Ripper's okay with cheating, so here I think they vote for Millie, but MK would want to keep Bowie to think that Millie causes more drama on the team. So they all vote for Millie because she was third place last season and she pushed Damien down the slide. Episode 4. This episode is where... So the questions episode, and Bowie's still cheating, with MK obviously helping him cheat. The skunk butt once again win the challenge by cheating, and out of these group of people, I think the old target, to be honest, Damien, the winning last season, the old target Damien, as MK's idea is to get rid of all the winners, and even though Caleb is a challenge threat, he wasn't really a threat last season. So episode 5, the navigate through the obstacle course challenge. Wayne and Raj still find out MK cheated, and here they still win the challenge. Now, without Julia to convince Nichelle to quit, she doesn't quit in this version. So they notice that Priya and Caleb have gotten pretty close, and Axel and Ripper are a couple. So they agree to target Axel since Ripper and Axel being on different teams is a very bad idea to target a couple on a different team, which really upsets Ripper, but the others agree to get rid of Axel. Now we're at the merge, and basically Nichelle is here instead of Julia. Now, to be honest, MK still fights a bear for cheating. And it's Raj and Bowie, Caleb and Priya. And I gotta make a few different pairs now that we don't have people. I think it would be Chase and Z. Well, Emma and Chase. Wayne and Ripper, which leaves Nichelle and Z. So the first round, obviously, Caleb and Priya still fail. I think Emma would be. I think Chase would actually win against Emma. I think Z would beat Nichelle. Ripper beats Wayne, and then Bowie beats Raj. So we skip to the end of this one because Bowie usually wins the challenge. So basically, do I think anyone does better than Bowie? So Chase, no. Z, no. Wayne, no. I think Bowie wins because nobody's beating Bowie in this challenge. So I think everyone just votes for MK for cheating in last challenge. So they all vote off MK here. Now, episode 7. So here are the cooking teams. Now, to be honest, Nichelle could win the Hockey Bros considering the fact Julia won. So I think Nichelle could win the challenge here. So, to be honest, they win immunity. Now, Emma and Bowie would make up in this episode, and Bowie would have an alliance with Emma and Chase. So I think Priya and Caleb obviously are big targets here. So I think Bowie can also convince Ripper, Raj, and Wayne to vote on his side. But Nichelle decides to counter by getting Ripper and Z to vote with Caleb and Priya. So these 5 are going to vote for Caleb, and the other 5 are going to vote Raj. Since Raj and Wayne are immune, they vote for Bowie since he's the biggest threat that's not immune. So so Caleb and Bowie are both eliminated. Which is kind of ironic considering that Bowie got rid of Caleb in season 1. So I think this is why a nice callback. Episode 8. So this episode, obviously, they have to break around the pinball machine. And I think everybody does okay. I think Z still tells everyone their secrets, and because of that, he still gets voted off. Episode 9 is bringing back the heaviest thing and breaking it. So I feel like Ripper really doesn't do that well here. Z doesn't do. Nichelle doesn't either. So the Hockey Bros managed to bring back the boat that Caleb brought back in the original. So I think they both win the challenge. Now, Priya obviously is not upset with Caleb because she never finds out, obviously. So I think Priya gets the Hockey Bros to vote for Ripper. Chase and Emma also vote off Ripper, so I think Ripper goes. Episode 10. In the Painful Memories episode, I feel like Priya wins, but she gets to pick who she wants to win. Now, obviously, she wouldn't see any of these people as potential winners because Emma and Chase are a couple, and obviously Emma and Chase have fallen out. These two are Hockey Bros who choose each other, so she picks Nichelle, since she's the only person apart from her who's not in any alliance. Now, she convinces the Hockey Bros to get rid of Emma, since Emma did better last season over Chase, so they get rid of Emma. In episode 10 is the K9 episode, and in this episode, Raj and Wayne get chased. I think Chase does pretty well, actually, because of his stunts. Nichelle doesn't do the best. Priya does okay, like she does in the original. And I think that Wayne still wins the challenge. So Nichelle and Priya try to convince Chase to vote for Raj. Wayne and Raj vote for Priya. And then Chase has the decision to make because who does he vote for? And I think he agrees that to get rid of Raj. Episode 11. My bad. So Raj goes in episode 11, Emma's in episode 10. So episode 12 is the Fears Challenge, and obviously Priya is pretty decent. I feel like Chase and Wayne kind of team up to try and take out Priya. I think they win. And Nichelle also votes for Priya. So Wayne, Chase, and Nichelle are all in the finale, which is actually pretty cool that the original plays out the same. So I think most people support Wayne, to be honest. And thank you guys for watching. This is the emotional order, and what if the entire teams, the winning teams, chose who won? Peace and farewell.